All right. So, doing a national press call for, um, we became the first former incarcerated candidate to run for city council in Austin, Texas. And today we're going to have a press call. So, that is what we're prepping for. And we're going to stream it live for later views. All right. So, hopefully, the phone works good. All right. Nobody calls me as I'm doing this. All right, what is it number? 156049356.
Welcome. This service is provided by Free Talk. If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise, please wait and you will be joined into the conference. Please announce yourself.
This is Louis Conway.
Hey, Louis.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
That sounds great on my end.
Good. All
All
right.
right. How's your morning going?
Oh man, it's been good. Trying to find a location for our night out for safety and liberation. Getting some stuff done for work stuff and getting some talking points from Glenn Martin.
Great. Yeah, I scheduled a call with him. I don't know if you hop on or not. Let me look at my calendar. When that was.
Yeah, he was saying that he needs a number. So I don't have to be on that call, and I'm cool if I'm not, because there's some stuff that y'all probably need to talk that just because he's that dude in terms of that. So I trust whatever conversation that y'all have, and he also said too that he wanted to talk to you. Yeah, so just shoot him a conference number or something like that.
Yeah.
I should love when you have 1,000 tabs open.
The recording has started.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I was turning on recording for the call.
Oh, that wasn't me. That was yeah, so I sent out a bunch of tweets. We should have some folks tuning in.
Great.
Oh my God, they've been going on for 45 minutes up. on. My jug 1, 2, 2. I'm sure I got enough battery. Yeah, man.
Other than me, yes, what is like 30 steps in terms of security?
Say it again now.
What's your 30-second take on the soccer stadium?
That the community needs to be more involved in the planning of that, and we need to be thinking about what it's going to do in terms of impacting folks' taxes in that area to pay for it, as well as what kind of tax breaks are we giving to the developers, and are we passing those same tax breaks along to residents around there?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's good. Curious.
Rico's now calling me. Rico,
Yo, Louis.
yo.
Hey, just calling back to say that I'm about to call in.
All right,
I realized as I was calling you up, I should probably just call the number rather than do this.
all right, cool.
Okay, cool. I'll call the conference number.
All right, peace.
I know you just said that on the article.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Just sound someone in the call also welcoming them.
So it's Mike Lewis, what's up, guys?
Hey, Mike.
Brother Mike, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. How about you, Louis?
I'm well. I'm well.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, man. I love Mondays. You know, Motivation Mondays. I can't think of a better way to be enjoying a Monday.
Same here. Rico Garcia.
Well, the home team is here.
What up?
I said the home team is here.
Who else on the line?
We got Matthew, campaign manager, and you. And we got
Very cool. Okay.
And Mike Lewis.
and brother Mike Lewis. I don't know his title yet.
Other Mike Lewis. Okay.
Yeah.
Who are we expecting to call in? Or have you heard from someone specifically? From the media?
Go ahead, Matt.
I haven't gotten any hard RSVPs, but I've been hounding people through press releases. So hopefully we'll get a few people from my event. I invited out and said he got an RSVP from a Shen, the nation Senator Penny Lewis had been some as well. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. All right.
Yeah, we'll see who clicks in. I sent a bunch of invites out and tweeted a bunch of folks. So
Yeah, that's a better bunch though.
we'll see.
They'll email afterwards about how it went, or maybe talk about it.
Yeah, I am recording the call, so I'm just gonna edit whenever we're trying to wherever the call starts and send that as a follow-up as well.
Oh, yeah, we can make that.
Catherine Martin, the Houston Chronicle.
Thank you, Catherine. This is Matthew Krause from City King, but we're just gonna wait a couple minutes for people to get on and go ahead and get started. Thanks for attending the call.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
It's going now, y'all.
Sounds like someone might have entered. We're here. Just wait a minute to get the call started.
So, Catherine, was it with the Chronicle?
Yeah.
Are you have y'all done a story regarding this kind of this campaign yet?
No, not that I know of.
Very cool. I don't think I've seen one. So
Yeah.
good to hear the Chronicles including themselves.
Well, if we want to start, we can. I would hum a tune to keep everyone entertained as opposed to. I
I was
apologize.
gonna say that you could just begin some questions in the meantime, or like, right? Would that be?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, no, I'm
more,
sorry.
More or less, yeah.
Well,
We can wait 6 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, my plan was, I'll just go ahead and introduce Lewis in a couple minutes, and he'll give a 5-minute run through of his background, why he's running, and talk about how he just recently filed for profit, and Rico, who's the campaign's attorney, or Lewis's attorney rather, will talk a little bit about the legal aspects of the campaign, and then we'll open it up for questions for Lewis and Rico. So any questions that are related to the legal aspects can be directed to Rico, and any other questions can be directed to Lewis. So a couple other people just hopped on. Just wait a couple more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome.
By the way, this is Rico Garcia. This voice at least.
Okay.
Welcome to the conference call. We'll be getting started in just a few seconds. All right, well, I have 6 after on my clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matthew Crosby. I'm Lewis Conway Jr.'s campaign manager for his thank everybody for attending. I said earlier, there'll be brief. I'm going to introduce Lewis, and he will give a short explanation of who he is, why he's running, and then we will go ahead and move over to Rico Garcia, who is Lewis's attorney, and he will give a quick update on the campaign's a legal update on the campaign, and after that we'll go ahead and open up for questions, and you can just direct the questions to Lewis or to Rico. Any questions about the legal aspect of the campaign can be referred to Rico. All right, so I'll go ahead now and turn it over to Lewis Conway Jr.
good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us. My name is Lewis Conway Jr., LEWISCONWAY Jr. I am a formerly incarcerated candidate. I'm running as a Democratic Socialist in Austin, Texas for City Council. And last week on July 23rd, I officially became the first formerly incarcerated person in Texas to run for office. So a bit about me. I was born in Abilene, Texas, April 1st, 1970. We moved to Austin in 1975. My father was active in an NAACP here in Austin. He worked for Bob Bullock at the State Comptroller's Office, one of the first Black directors. He was also an ordained minister. I went to elementary school in the district that I am seeking office in, elementary, junior high, high school. Dropped out of high school in 1987, and I started college at Houston University in 1988. While attending HT, of course, I had several jobs. One of my main jobs was a journalist. I was a photographer and editor and a staff writer for a paper called NACOA. In the summer of 1991, when I was 21, far removed from the life I knew as a child and the life that I grew up with, I was living in a neighborhood where there were gangs and there were drug sales, and I became a dealer myself. In 1991, I got into a fight with the man who robbed me. That man pulled a gun on me, and I defended myself with a knife. At the end of that fight, Derek Lamont Davis suffered a stab wound, which several hours later he expired from in surgery. April 21st, 1992. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. April 5th, 1992. I was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 20 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter. From 1992 to 2000, I was incarcerated in Texas prisons. Shortly after his death, I was released on bond, and I was on bond for a year and a half. During that period on bond, I changed my life. I vowed that I would not live a street life again, and I became an ordained minister, just like my father. While I was in prison, in jail in Travis County, I met the father of the victim, and it was that encounter that literally brings me here today. He showed me a level of compassion and a place of no compassion that allows me to do the work that I do today. I was released from prison, and I served the remainder of my sentence in the community on August 21st, 2000. I completed my parole 2013, February 15th. I spent the last 17 years raising my children, my grandchildren, speaking about my experience ministering, becoming a serial entrepreneur. I'm a twice published author, and I'm a community activist. Today, I work for an organization called Grassroots Leadership and Texas Advocates for Justice. I am a community and criminal justice organizer. Both of those organizations work to end prison profiteering. We seek to build power in communities that have been disenfranchised. We also seek to change policy that are affecting folks at the intersections of criminal justice, immigration, and mental health. I began my political career leading a legislative effort to pass the only fair chance hiring ordinance in the South, which allows folks that have a background to seek employment without being denied first, without being given a fair chance. I went on to help protect that same ordinance at the state level, and I led that effort as well. And I've led several, local efforts. I've helped repeal the Austin juvenile curfew. I've helped pass paid sick days, and we helped close 4 prisons last legislative session. So today brings us here because when I decided to run for office, I was immediately asked the question about my background, and my background being a preclusion for me being able to run for office. When I looked at the way the law read, having spent 2 years fighting for custody for my children, I was I was familiar with legalese, and the way I understood the code to read is that once I had resolved the disabilities of my conviction, I was allowed to run. As someone that has lived with the disabilities of a conviction, being on parole and not being able to vote were the only disabilities I felt I encountered. So when I saw the law, that is how I interpreted. So I began to launch a campaign. December 4th, we did our campaign announcement. December 16th, I believe the city clerk released a memo stating that there was a question in my eligibility in terms of her interpretation of what the code said. Since then, the Secretary of State has made several statements in the press ambiguously around there not being a definition of what a disability is, nor there being a defining principle around a resolution of what that around that disability. So last week we filed. The state has yet to give us an opinion, and we feel that though our campaign is a local one, the issue affects 100 million Americans and at least 4 million Texans. And this being an era where voter disenfranchisement has become not only a Republican and Democratic issue, we realize that a fair chance, not just to run, but also to restore ourselves back into society. This campaign, we believe, is how we undo decades of mass incarceration and 100 years of oppression. But we also hope to bring back hope to those who have been harmed and to create a path forward. We believe diversity means creating space for leadership by people like me. We believe that folks with a background, we make up 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's population, and we disproportionately lack of folks just like us. So for us, it's not about politics. I do care about good policy. Our campaign is about healthcare for all, affordable housing, making sure we bring hospitals and banks to the east side, and supporting community schools. But it's more about folks who have been disenfranchised by the electoral process being engaged actively and seeking participants in what we have been calling an experiment in participatory democracy. So I am a minister, so I can talk a long time. So I will end now, and I'll take questions.
Sorry, it sounds to me cut off there for a second.
No, I'll end there. I apologize.
And you'll take questions at this point.
And I'll take questions if it's fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Dolly McCall. I'm with the Texas Tribune. I know, right, so you mentioned at this point that you're waiting for state opinions. Like, where is there any legal challenge at this point? I know you said in the interview that you kind of decided to run and see what challenges kind of come at you. So is the process right now you're waiting for an opinion from the Secretary of State?
Can I jump in there?
Yes.
Hey, so sorry to catch your name. This is Rico Garcia. I'm the attorney with Lewis.
Hi, I'm Dolly.
Hey, so we're tracking that question specifically. We are not awaiting a specific opinion. We have not sent a formal request to the state to kind of give any opinion. In that, just so it's clear, a specific request is not sent to the Attorney General's office, by any kind of legislative office or anything like that. So we don't expect any response, unless it's an unprompted one. We also anticipate the Attorney General will not likely weigh in on this issue. And I can speak very quickly, I guess, as the legal strategy moving forward. At the moment, we'll likely, like I think you just mentioned, are attempting to wait to see which candidates will challenge the Lewis's eligibility, and if at that point, if a challenge arises, we will prepare and willing to more or less seek out clarification within the courts. Because at its core, it's a very non-sexy issue. It's a statutory interpretation issue, most likely. And that you can take in a lot of things. Obviously, there's feedback, but obviously the public policy argument behind the case is strong and very interesting. But at its core, it'll be an interpretation issue. So we're prepared to do that, but no one has challenged it yet. And I'm sure the question will come is who has the ability to do it? Most likely either the state or a candidate running against someone. So as far as we understand, it's very, very, there will be no way that a voter, for instance, can do it, or a random Texan, for instance, can do it. It must be one of the opponents. I'm sorry, I'm getting like really a lot of feedback.
I'm sorry, it could be me. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, if anyone who's not speaking could mute their phone, that would be ideal. Thank you.
It could be me. So the reason why I bring up the state opinion is because if you'll notice, we came in last in fundraising. And one of the reasons we were so anemic, if you will, is that there was this question hanging over our campaign, whether or not we would be allowed to serve even if elected. And so, for us going into the election, we feel it's necessary for there to be a clear path forward in terms of folks being able to vote. But also, again, it's not just about our campaign. It's about 4 million other Texans who have a background. And so they don't deserve to hang in limbo while the state decides whether or not they're going to choose to define what this law means. So with that being said, I agree with Rico completely. But for us, it's important that the voters know that it is okay to vote for us.
Yeah, that actually is a huge thing. I think one thing to consider also as well is in regards to the statements by the Secretary of State's office, that has been said by the media teams. They have not had any, and they've been very clear to say that any kind of statements are not legal, they're not been edited by any kind of specific team. They don't carry the weight of the Secretary of State. And it should be known as well that the Secretary of State's statements on this are not exactly binding in any manner. So when you read it, the statements they've made that seem to ambiguously refer or infer that those ineligible, there should be seen with a grain of salt, as well as, to be honest, it's relatively irresponsible on their end, because without effectively using the law, they're practically using it to more or less disenfranchise an entire set of people. A very, very specific group of people are being denied the right to vote, to run when these same people are very clearly given the right to vote, the right to jury, and the right to other things. And without using the law specifically to stop them, they're just practically stopping them by ambiguously stating, oh, they probably can't run. And it has very real world implications in the way that Lewis just mentioned, and it affects fundraising and a variety of other things. And these candidates like Lewis are in the scenario where the media has begun to kind of amalgamate, if one would call it this, around this issue, and it's being used positively, but most of the time, as far as I've gathered, is a very, very negative kind of been used very negatively, and that's why this issue hasn't really arisen, because it so quickly stifles campaign.
Yeah, thank you, Rico. Right, just as a reminder, I'm recording the call, so if anyone, I'll go ahead and have a copy of the recording available for anyone who would like it. Are there any other questions?
I had another one, but no one else had one.
No, it's okay.
So you mentioned, that you said like your biggest disability is you felt like you're living with being on parole and not being able to vote. What about like there are some lifelong situations like being able to serve on a jury? Are you trying to? I guess are you taking any steps to try to remove those disabilities as well?
Sure, thank you. So, go ahead. Well, let me answer the qualitative part of that, and then Rico can answer the legal part of that. So, when you think about disabilities, there are over 250 licenses that I'm not eligible for. There are housing that I'm not eligible for. Up until 2 years ago, there was employment that I wasn't considered for. And so, there's a couple of prongs that we find discouraging. We helped pass a fair chance hiring ordinance The city council position is a public city municipal position, and yet we are not given a fair chance, meaning that we're not allowing the public to determine. In reference to disabilities, are we speaking about a mental disability? Are we speaking about a social disability? What disabilities are we going to create to exclude people as opposed to figuring out ways to include people? And so from the outset, we have said that whatever race that we are allowed to vote in, we should be allowed to run in. The only thing stopping us is not because our attempt to run is unconstitutional, because according to the Constitution, we are allowed to run for president, we're allowed to run for Congress, we're allowed to run for the Senate. But there is local reasoning that we feel is tied back to folks still being considered less than, which is creating these obstacles, not because there is a legal precedent, but because we feel as a society and as a Republican state, we feel that certain classes of people still don't deserve a right to serve their communities, regardless of the amount of time that has passed between the act of harm, the amount of rehabilitation that has gone into place, and the amount of space that has been created between that person and that incident. And what have they done to restore themselves to the community, and what have they done to transform the harm that they have engaged in? So I think that is a better question as opposed to what other disabilities are we going to find.
And the most important thing too, to remind me, certainly to include in any story, is the most important disability that transcends not just the Texas statute, but to other Texas or other states, is the right to vote. And largely it makes sense, right? What is the most connected, or what disability clearly in this scenario ties directly to the right to run, what's the right to vote? And it is unabashedly clear that the right to vote is immediately restored, automatically restored upon completing all of the sentences for us. And that has been fluid